Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, I am Nesya Putri Santika. I'm from 6th class. In this occasion, I want to tell you about bilingualism in sociolinguistics. This video was made to fulfill the final examination or final project from sociolinguistics course, which is guided by our beloved lecturer, Miss Aulia Ansar, Master of Public Relation. Enjoy the video! Hello and welcome to today's session on bilingualism. As more and more people communicate on a global level due to travel or business purposes, there has been an increased interest in learning a second language. Some have started from an early age, resulting in a better overall understanding of the emotional and social context of the second language, while others have taken up a second language in adulthood. Learning a language at a later stage in life has shown that adults approach language issues is the second language more analytically or rationally than their first language, and then the less biased in emotional fashion and then exhibited in young language learners. This session aims to define what it means to have a bilingual brain, identify the importance of knowing a second language in terms of its benefits, and suggest ways to integrate various aspects of language into the school environment via bilingual or dual language programming. So let's start with a definition of bilingualism. Being bilingual or knowing more than one language means that your brain may work and look differently to that of your monolingual counterparts. To explain this, you need to ask yourself, what knowing a language actually means? Do you need to focus on pronunciation or grammar, on how to communicate, or on all of the above? That's right, the answer is all of the above. Acquiring a language means having both a receptive and productive knowledge of it. By receptive, I mean focusing on reading and listening skill. By productive, I mean speaking and writing. If you speak two languages or a multilingual, your knowledge of the skill are not always balanced and used in equal proportion. Most bilinguals or multilinguals use their skills in a disproportional fashion. For example, you may find that some bilingual learners find they are more forthcoming with one skill than another, even though they know how to function in both areas. This generally happens as a consequence of their circumstance and how they come to learn the language or languages in the first place. Let me give you some scenarios to better explain my point. There are three types of bilinguals. Imagine a toddler who was immigrate with his siblings and parents to a new country where another language is spoken. This child, because of this experience, will probably develop the linguistic system. At the same time, his first language as well as second language will be used simultaneously as he tries to process what is happening around him. And then he will know both languages equally well and process them to fit any situation. This child is referred to as a compound bilingual working into languages, but with one set of concepts and with no distinction between the linguistic codes of the two languages. His working with a second scenario is the following. The same child has an older sister, slightly older, and attending school in the new country. Because her particular situation, the teenager already knows her first language quite well and needs to be able to function in the second language. to attend school and be part of the general school community. She finds herself working with two sets of concepts. As a speak, as she speaks the second language at school while continuing to communicate with friends and family in the first language outside the school environment. This means the sister belongs to the group of coordinated bilinguals. The third scenario focuses on the parents. They pertain to the group of subordinate bilingual. When they start to learn a second language by making association with their first language and filtering it through their first language, needless to say their first language will dominate their daily life. All three types of bilinguals can reach a high linguistic competence in all their languages, but their proficiency can change depending on their motivation and context, as these play a significant role in their bilingual development throughout their lives. Although many studies have been carried out regarding bilingualism, those which were conducted before 1960 regarded learning two languages as a hindrance because research at the time considered that learners were being forced to distinguish between two or more language codes, which is more than they could handle mentally. The time and energy spent on these concurrent languages was believed to delay the learner's linguistic development. Understandably, in today's world, these views are seen as somewhat flawed. More recent examination has shown that the ability to switch between languages has in effect resulted in more positive activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex of the brain. This is the region which greatly influences the executive function of the brain, such as cognitive flexibility, working memory, and abstract reasoning. Hence, according to research, being bilingual implies that your brain is actually more actively involved and healthier. So, what does this imply? It basically means that being bilingual has important implications for the brain with regard to how it processes and represents the two or more languages being learned and how it changes as a consequence of learning languages in general. In fact, then learning another language, the benefits are multiple. In addition to having a healthy and complex brain, being bilingual may delay by up to 5 years the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia because of the extended workout this type of brain received during its lifetime. Furthermore, knowing more than one language can definitely enhance your competitiveness and facilitate communication in the global marketplace. The final part of the session is going to focus on how various aspects of language can be implemented into the school environment through dual language programming. It is true to say that having the skill and knowledge of one language can facilitate the learning of another. Studies that have been carried out using both monolingual and dual language programs have found that those who have learned using languages have done equally as well as those instructed only using their first language, and if anything have at times gone on to outperform their counterparts in literacy skills. As an exemplar, I'd like to focus on Canada. Both English and French are the official languages of the country. Although English is predominantly used, French is also spoken and taught from a very early age. Children who go through bilingual immersion at school tend to become more proficient readers at the early age and are the better at solving problems as a result of having learned a second language. Learners are exposed to both languages simultaneously and are taught the second language through songs, games, craft, and certain themes or topics. Integrating various parts of the language into the environment can eventually make it easier for the child to grasp and manipulate the languages for any situation. However, running a dual language program is not without its issues. Let's look at the kinds of programs available. There are two types of bilingual instruction. In the first category, you have two groups of students where one speaks, let's say, English, their first language, and the other group speaks, let's say, Arabic, their first language. So all students take on the role of modeling the language and learning the language, but at different times of instruction as they teach and learn from each other. This is known as a two-way dual language program. The other category is a one-way dual language program where there is only one group of students learning languages, their first language and the second language, to native speaker teacher of the first language and the second language teach these languages simultaneously. Students are instructed in their first language 50% of the time, as well as second language. This would be a typical scenario in Canada. In Belgium, where English and French are spoken, the same would be typical of Florida in the USA, where both Spanish and English are taught. Despite the benefit of such immersion instruction, there are many challenges. One difficulty would be in recruiting well-qualified teacher who could teach the second language, knowing both its linguistic skill as well as its content. A second challenge would be finding appropriate textbooks in the second language that are allied with the curriculum already in place for the first language, and thirdly, getting appropriate funding. To wrap up, the key takeaways from the session have highlighted what it means to be bilingual, some benefits, and how to set up total immersion program. Okay, I think enough for my explanation about bilingualism. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.